Hi there guys, it has to be said that David Sutch didn't have the greatest voice in the world, but by God he got a bit of charisma, hadn't he? When you think about it. He was a good stage actor and he pulled the crowds in, and I can remember many times when he topped the bill above the Hollies and people like that. Fantastic really, and all those times he stood for Parliament, and we know a lot of it was publicity stunts, but by Christ, he had some go in him, didn't he? And do you know what? I wasn't far behind him because we both grew up in Chartres Road in Kilburn, London, Northwest 6. I lived at 37 and he lived at 41, and we went to the same school, Salisbury Road School. And then when I moved to Harrow, 6 months later, he moved out there and he went to South Harrow. And our friendship continued for many long years. And I worked with him on the Gun Towers and Radio Sutch, and well, that's a story you probably all know. But, when we talk about pirate radio, we think about Caroline, don't we? And we think about Atlanta, and poor old Radio Sutch gets pushed to the back burner just a little bit. I know it's very fondly remembered, but it does get pushed to the back burner. Now, if you remember, Caroline started in March 64, Atlanta in April 64, and Radio Sutch in May 64. And I'm not going to go on about Caroline and Atlanta because I don't know a great deal about them, and I'm sure that if I said too much there'll be somebody out there tell me to shut me gob. But there you go. But I can talk about Radio Sutch because I was there. It was Reg Calvert, David Sutch, Brian Paul, Jeff Pussymew and myself, Colin Dale. We sailed out to the Gun Towers and we started Radio Sutch. There was a lot of help from behind the scenes, people in Denmark Street and all that sort of thing, and Reg's good wife up at the hall in Rugby. But we actually started Radio Sutch, and we were doing quite well at it in the beginning, because we never had very much equipment, and in actual fact the equipment was rather poor, but we created a sensation and we had a wonderful time. We had girlies out there on top of the Gun Towers, and when the sun was shining bright we were all in the noddy bathing, sunbathing. And dear old Brian would be on the end of a rope swimming around the Gun Towers because he loved all that. He died, by the way, in a swimming accident. But, yeah, we had a marvellous time. I haven't got a long enough time on here to tell you about it because, YouTube restricts you to so many minutes. But it was one hell of a time. And we started something, the Caroline, Atlanta, Radio Sutch and so on and so forth. We all started something. We gave music to the nation, to the young people of the day, where the BBC wouldn't. And what you've got to remember, it was John Stonehouse, Tony Benn, Harold Wilson and the BBC who cut the throat of pirate radio. And do you know what? I'm never going to forgive them bastards for that. And that John Stonehouse was found on a beach many years later, wasn't he? He'd done a runner. He must have felt guilty. But no, we had some wonderful times out there. If you go to my website, www.colindaleradiosuch.com, you can pick up on a lot of these stories, and also I'm on YouTube as well, so it's interesting to try and keep the old stories going. And anyway, I think I've said enough for now. I'm just going to let us have a word from our sponsor, and then I'll be back to fill your crack. That was painful, David.
When the shades of night are falling and the moon is shining bright.
Now you do remember that Radio Sutch lasted about 6 months, don't you? We started in the May, sort of finished by September, October. But David took his money and ran, and Reg Calvert carried on, and he called it Radio City from then on. And we all know about how Reg got shot by that murdering swine, the Mad Major Smedley, don't we? Because we've seen it and we've read it and we've gone on Wikipedia and read some of the stories on there. which are not all true, I might add, but there you go, because I was out there doing my bit on the gun towers in the Thames estuary. But you know what? David Sutch had charisma. He certainly did, and he knew how to make a buck. And do you know what? We came from a hard place in London, and we were very poor when we were kids. So do you know what? He did well, and I've done even better.
Kids are sighing, and the zombies are dancing, and the skeletons are rancing. I get into my great big coffin till the following night.
That's enough of that, David. You're boring the people. Hey up, we've got that girl again. There's Jack the Cripper.
There's a man walks the streets of London late at night with a little black bag that's oh so tight. He's got a big black cloak hanging down his back.
This is just my little way of saying thank you to my old mate David Sutch. He died in '99, as you know, and I miss him, and so do a lot of other people. But just my way of saying thank you for the good times we had on the gun towers, the times that we toured the country with the Savages, the girlies we met. I better be careful, hadn't I? Yeah, they're suing them. Oh God. No, but we did. We had some marvellous times together. I think the best times we had were before he became famous. Was when he and I used to go about on that old Zundat Bella scooter to the Cricklewood Broadway, the Blue Cafe and the Cricklewood Skating Rink. Places like that. We were teenagers, kids. 2 Eyes Coffee Bar, you know how it was. But marvellous times. Anyway, I'll shut up now. I think I've said enough. A little bit more David, then it'll be bye-bye.
Catch him, 'cause he's a much too clever. But if they do, a man will get the leather,
I seem to remember Paul Dean Nicholas was on this record playing piano. I'm probably wrong, but I seem to remember. It's a long time ago. And I do remember Reg Calvert, and I do remember Joe Meek and the recording studios in the Holloway Road, where most of these records were made for David.
And don't walk the streets of London late at night. Well, he walks down the street, and the girl he meets says, "Your name is Blood."
You had a ripping time there, folks, a ripping time on Radio Sutch, coming to you from the gun towers here in my home in North Wales. Hope you've enjoyed those few moments of taking us back in time, talking about pirate radio and all the things that we got up to as youngsters. Sorry I haven't got more time, but perhaps later on I'll do another recording and give you some more of my little secrets about what went on in the 50s and 60s. In the meanwhile, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from him. Well, what have we got now? Oh, the Ripper, Jack the Ripper. My thing stopped working. Oh, there you go. What's that? It's bye-bye from David, it's bye-bye from me. See you later, folks. Adios, amigos.